Hi, and welcome back to season 4 of the Composed Living with Elsa Elbert podcast. I am your host, Elsa, and today my guest is Neil Aaron, the founder of Neil Aaron Healing and the Shiva Murti Learning Center. Neil has dedicated his life to helping others heal and transform. With a background in psychology and child development, his journey began as a counselor for severely emotionally disturbed children. He has worked as a musician and a school teacher, a certified life coach, and he created his signature Manifestation 101 series. Through his work at Neil Aaron Healing, he supports individuals, groups, and even animals. And through the Shiva Murti Learning Center, he's able to teach this powerful modality, offering immersive training and transformational journeys to Bali. I can't wait for Neil to share more of his story with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to be here. Thank you for asking me to do this.
Oh my gosh, of course. So we've done 3 seasons of this podcast in the past, and then we took an unintentional year-long hiatus. The girl who was helping to produce it moved on to bigger and better things for her life. And then also we were opening the retail store, and it just felt like a good time to take a time out. And then for me personally, I feel like I always need to be doing something new in my career or something that really satisfies my soul. And I was like, why aren't we doing the podcast anymore? And then I was like, why am I not talking to Neil? And that's how it started. So you're the first guest on season 4.
Yay. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm honored. Working with you has been so great. And you mentioned the manifestation stuff. It's like always doing something new is a high vibration. That is pulling in good stuff, is to be constantly like, I have those steps. It's steps is taking risk. And there is a risk in trying something new and doing something new and having something new coming in. It's part of that cycle I've talked about in the past, but I'll share with your podcast listeners that in Bali, there's something called the Tree Murti. And the Tree Murti are the 3 powers of the universe. And they're represented in 3 colors. They're on my bracelet if you're watching the video. It's black, white, and red. And one of the powers is creation. And one of the powers is preservation. And one of the powers is destruction. And these 3 things work together to keep everything kind of moving and going. And in our culture, we typically think destruction as like a negative thing, but in Bali, it's looked at as not negative or positive. It just is. And destruction happens, for example, when you have a crop of corn that you're growing and you have the creation of putting in the seed and watching it grow and having it develop. And then it's preserved for a while as a plant and it's growing and it's like there. And then we chop it down and we will rip out the roots and everything, and we fix up the soil to go again. And that's the destruction. It's just part of the process kind of thing. That was tangent number 1.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. I look forward to many more.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I speak in similar, like our brain just goes right into a little offshoot and then we come back around. But that was so beautiful because that's also that's just the cycle of life, right? And you can't really have anything new unless you're constantly shedding things from the past or learning, integrating, and then becoming this newer version of yourself. And that to me is the most exciting part of life. And so I think I've always been lifelong student. I'm actually going back to school. I'm starting a PhD program in 2 weeks.
Oh, awesome. That's so
great. Which I fully forgot about. I was so excited during the application process and beyond thrilled to be accepted. And then I forgot about it for the last couple of months. And now I'm I have all these textbooks arriving in the mail. And I'm like, what's going on? Where am I going to keep all of these? What am I doing? But yeah, very exciting. And
that is exciting.
One of those things that people are always like, why? I'm like, but why not? What do you mean?
Right.
Because I'm still alive, because I'm only in my 40s, because I have this opportunity to devote the next 4 to 7 years to really learn something that I'm passionate about. And who knows what will come from that, right? I do it sort of with no expectation. The final part of that is as I get ready to move into this next phase, something else will have to come to an end. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's a beautiful thing.
No, one of my biggest upgrades of recent history happened after one of the biggest destructions of my life. And it really was, while it was happening, I was very conscious when people are like, oh my God, how are you even standing right now? Like, how are you able to handle all of this at once? One of those things is enough to knock someone out, but three things at once in a short period of time, like in a 3-week period. And I just kept saying, this is my destruction phase. And yes, it hurts. And yes, I'm upset. And yes, this is devastating. I'm allowed to be devastated. But I knew consciously that the creation of what's next is going to be big because everything's a pendulum. It's just going to, like, as bad as this is, the next thing is going to be that equally as good. And that was my journey with that, for sure.
I love that. I feel like that's such a healthy way to view life, because it really is this glorious combination of beauty and sometimes pain. And I think you're right. As much as you can experience one, you also have the ability to experience the opposite of that, which is wonderful. I know, the tiny love of my life, Pip, passed away a couple months ago.
I know.
And it was like literally the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And I don't know if all people who are pet owners experience this. I'm like a little bit convinced not, because I feel like I just loved her more than is humanly possible. And I've reminded myself of that so many times, where it's like, without this grief, like, I don't want the grief to not exist, because that's like the proof that I had of how much I loved this little creature. And that's such a blessing. So as much as the grief part sucks, it's in equal proportion to how loved that little nugget was. And I would never do away with either piece of that.
Right. I actually was talking about this yesterday with someone. I'm in AA, and this person is new to AA. She has 1 week sober. And I was talking to her, and I was saying how I had the biggest fear about my dog dying, that I would drink again, that I couldn't handle it, I would kill myself. I just didn't know how I was going to handle that level of grief because of how much love I had for her, or had for her. And what I learned is going through it sober was such a bigger blessing than had I just drank during it and just like not shown up for the experience, because the pain, as raw and as horrible as it feels while you're going through it, it just, like you said, it just is showing how much you truly love and are connected, and how devastating it feels to have that transition from them going from physical to spiritual. I was talking about my horrible destruction part. Part of that was my dog dying. And it was, I came back from Bali after great training and feeling great, and my students were all happy and it was all great. And I walked in and I'm like, something's wrong with my dog. And I took her to the emergency room, and the next day they diagnosed her with cancer, a really aggressive form. And as I was trying to take her to doctors and stuff, I got a phone call from my doctor that my biopsy came back that I had cancer too. And so it was this whole thing of like, oh my God, what's going on?
Wow.
And I had also noticed while I was away, and I came home a month later, I'm like, my place really smells so mildewy and weird. And I pulled my bed away and there was black mold everywhere.
No.
So, dealing with a slumlord and dealing with everything I had to deal, I knew everything was contaminated, and I knew I was going to lose everything in my home, and I was going to have to move, because I was like, there's no way that this guy is going to hire the right people and do this right. And in that, I was like, my dog died a week after. And then the day after she died, I just left my home, and for them to repair it or do whatever they could do. And I basically was like, oh my God, I have to like try to figure out cancer treatment while I'm grieving my dog and grieving my home. And it was such a symbolic time too. Like my bedroom was like our special place where we would cuddle in bed and have the best moments of our lives together. And when I walked into my house after I had left and I came back to check on things, the walls were all ripped out and it was down to the studs. And I was like, this is my heart. This is my, like, everything is, as someone that's going through loss grief, it's like, it just rips you apart.
It's a heart opener indeed.
Yes, for sure. and we do what we can to find solace. Like I spoke with pet psychics and I did that sort of stuff. But what was interesting about, and I ended up with a big upgrade with my home. Like my home now is easily 3 times better than my last home.
Amazing.
It's like 3 times bigger. It's 3 times everything. It's more the rent. Like the rent is double. But I live in a neighborhood that I love, and I love my home, and I have a dog now, and she's just so happy here, and it's great. But dealing with the cancer piece of that was also really emotional and difficult because it was a journey I never thought I would be on. It's definitely like, as a healer, I work on people with cancer all the time, and Shiva Murti has miraculous results sometimes. Like sometimes it's like, okay, the person's a little better. And sometimes it's like their cancer disappeared and doctors can't explain why. And it's like, oh, I only did a few sessions on that person and their cancer's gone. That's something that our culture doesn't have understanding for, or
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm even allowed to say that out loud or make a claim like that out loud, because there's so many boundaries around that kind of stuff.
But that has been your experience. And I can't wait we jumped over the whole, like, who are you and what do you do part.
Okay.
But we'll definitely come. I want people to understand what it is that you do, because I've also worked with you on that healing level, but continue.
Okay. Well, long story short is that I found in the power of my own healing in healing myself. And that was something I definitely didn't, when I signed up to be a healer and go to Bali, and I'll tell that whole story. But like, when I decided to do all this against what I thought was right. Well, no, I thought it was the right thing to do. It was against what I thought I wanted in life. I never imagined that one day I would be doing Western medicine on my own cancer. I would start getting worse, and I would say, I've got to put my money where my mouth is. Like I'm getting scared at like that it's getting worse and progressing. Like I better do something about this. And I cut off all Western medicine and I only did Shiva Murti. And the kind of cancer that I have was visible on my skin as like a rash. And the rash had spread so badly. And in 8 days after doing Shiva Murti, the rash was gone. Wow. And I have photographs with timestamps on like, this is what it was on this day. 8 days later, this is what it looks like now. That there's that experience was also part of that upgrade. It was also part of that, like, I needed that destruction to happen in order to show myself that I could stand for myself. I could take care of, and I can not just make claims with people and say, oh, I have clients and their cancer is great. I could be like, no. I'll show you my medical record. I will show you the physical proof. I will have my oncologist tell you, what she says, which is, don't do what we're doing, just do what you're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful, because you can easily view any health diagnosis or scare as a very negative thing. But in your experience, it's almost like you needed to be reminded of your own power and your own healing abilities and get that confidence back. And what a blessing that the healings worked and you're okay now.
Yeah. I mean, look at me. No, I mean, it's a chronic, medically speaking, Western medicine speaking, it's chronic. It's never gone, but I have no evidence of it on me right now. And all the tests and everything is just totally clear right now. So it is amazing. And it's just also you said the thing, and then we can get to the whole how it usually goes. But you said that people asked you like, why would you do this? And it's like, my mom taught me something when I was young, and that was around like having a job. And she said, she's a Jew from New York, and she was very much like, no one puts their head down to die thinking I should have worked more. And it gave me this perspective of like, when I die, and we don't know when that is, it could be tomorrow, but it could be in 40 years from now. When that moment comes, do I want to have regrets? Do I want to say, oh, I should have just done that. I should have just gotten the PhD. It's like, we have to live our lives as much as we can out loud. We have to take the trips we want to take. We have to do the things we can't put it off because we all know too many people that died before their time and they didn't get those chances. And so we're blessed enough to have the opportunities to do it. So we have to take the opportunities.
And I think the more you do that, this goes back to sort of like the energetics of it all. The more you take those chances, the more you say yes to the things that you claim you want in life, then the more of those opportunities you're going to get. And I think it just keeps feeding itself. So I'm doing the PhD through Gonzaga University, which is also where I did my master's. But I had no interest in pursuing a master's 15 years ago when I started that program either. I remember sitting on the beach in Laguna with my younger brother, one of his best friends, one of my best friends. We were playing smash ball, probably having cocktails as very young people. And my brother's friend was like, "Oh, I'm applying to this master's program." And he just looked at me sort of in passing and was like, "Actually, you would probably like it." And he told me like one sentence about it. And somehow it stuck in my brain. And I went back to Seattle where I was living at the time and had like a few moments of downtime while I was at work. And so I Googled it. Maybe Google wasn't even a thing, I don't know. It was so long ago. And I looked at it and was like, this is a soul yes. Like I'm doing it right now. And it never dawned on me from that moment on that I wouldn't be doing that. And I feel like every turning point in my life has been that, where I'm like just floating along, doing my thing, minding my own business. And then something so drastic and so big crosses my path. And I'm like, I'm going to do that now. And so literally like in that moment, I started my application. Within an hour, I was talking to an admissions advisor. And like 3 weeks later, I was starting a master's program that I adored. And it changed the trajectory of my career. It changed where I ended up living, working, like everything is different after that. You know, if I hadn't come back to LA, I wouldn't have met my husband. all of these things that weren't on my radar, but I said yes to that one opportunity. And then a world of new opportunities leading to where I am today resulted. And I'm so excited to see just as you learn something new, all of the new little rays of exploring and learning that come from that. So my focus is on leadership studies, but really with like a strong sense in community building and like what makes community, what builds intimacy between strangers in like an immediate setting, like a retreat, for example, or what builds community on a larger scale, like a whole city or a whole volunteer community. And so just like I get so excited thinking about all the things that I can research and study and really dive into there.
That's awesome. I think one of the highlights of what you said too is that it was a soul yes, which oftentimes we get the soul yes, but our minds tell us no. And that's just fear. That's just like quote unquote logic or whatever. That's like reality, whatever you want to call it. But that's not, the soul knows, like our souls know what we should be doing next or what the next adventure is. And you said that, you said yes, you said yes, you said yes. And as you know, having taken my manifestation class, saying yes is what opens doors to opportunity. It's like, and like you said, once you said yes to this, then this happened, then this, and then you're married, then you have kids. It's like kind of like, it's like you just say yes to things. So like one of my practices is to say yes to everything that I possibly can. And there's times where it's like, oh, someone's having a karaoke birthday and I love karaoke, but I was like, oh, but to the parking and and I'm like, no, you're going. You don't know who you're going to meet or what you're going to do or how it's going to feel. And I think you saw the performance on. I did. My friends were, first I was just like, I'll just post a picture of me doing it. And then my friends are like texting me like, can you send me can I see the video? And I'm like, I'll just post the video. Meanwhile, it was my most viral video of all, like anything I post, whether it's like Shiva Murti or not. It's the one that got the most comments and the most views and whatever. And it's just, knowing me, like, it's just me being me and living my best life and just being like, everyone else is standing up there reading the prompter and like nervously singing. And I'm like, I'm going to work the whole room and I'm going to do dance moves and I'm going to just like shake my butt and I'm going to do everything,
So you can
And
watch this video if you follow Neil on Instagram and scroll like a little past stalker until you find a video that looks
Actually,
like him doing karaoke.
I don't know if I put it on Instagram. I know I put it on Facebook, but I don't know if I put it on Instagram. But
Well, it's out there on the internet and people can find it.
It is. Yes. And if you follow me and you DM me, I will send it to you or I will repost it for sure.
I think those are the moment, like I shit talk social media so much just because of like what it has turned into, where it can feel like work and less organic and real. But then you get these reminders that that video was your most watched or most popular because it's you living your life authentically. And at the root of like all human beings, that's the connection that we crave. And so when we see it, like we know it, it's that same, like that soul yes of, oh, look at Neil. He's just doing his thing. And that's so inspiring, way more inspiring than like, here's my static. I didn't put any thought into that. I'm the worst with social media.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I don't know, just like
either.
put something up there. But people love when it's like, if I show my face and I'm talking about something I'm excited about, whatever, they connect. So I need to rewire my brain to just share more of those moments.
Yeah. I mean, I've been learning a lot about Instagram and everything because owning a business, it's like, and I don't have any help. So it's like, I really do have to do something online. I have to do some kind of posting. And what I was learning is that the more authentic you are to you, the more attractive you are to your audience. And, if you look at the comments of that video of me doing karaoke, it's like everyone was like, that is so you. Or that reminds me of the time we were kids and you used to do that at the family picnic. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, and that you're right. That's why it was well received, is because it was me being me and being unabashed, and just being like, I'm just going to be my biggest Neil I can be right now kind of thing.
I love that. And I've never done karaoke in my life. I've not even been the like nervous people standing at the top. Like and my husband is like you, like he sees a microphone and he's like, I'm on it. I'm going to work this room. I'm doing at least 10 songs.
Well, it's funny because
I hide in her.
When I was designing the training, which you could call a retreat, but we call it a training for my Shiva Murti healers, and I take them to Bali and we work with the master teacher, this guy on my shirt. It is very big energy and it is really serious in some points, and it is very intense in a lot of ways because of the energy and the spiritual growth that happens on that trip. So I designed it to end with the last night is karaoke, where people that haven't been there before don't know. I'd say, oh, follow me. We're going somewhere. And we go into this karaoke place and I grab the mic and I do a song and then we pass it around and everyone does it. And the people that are shy team up and do it together as like a group song or whatever. And it just changes the energy of the world, because it's like people are just suddenly living their life that they live when no one's around. Like the person that's like singing in the hairbrush in their bedroom or in the bathroom is now like doing karaoke and feeling like, oh my God, I'm doing it for real this time. And so karaoke is just a great tool of
like sweating listening to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do it. But if you had someone doing it with you, so at some point I will.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we go together. Like if you have someone that you're singing with, it's not as bad. Like I said, the really shy people would go up and do a group song. And so then it's not so bad. And you would see people start off like, I'm terrified. And then by the end, they're like, yeah, like, can we do another one? Kind of thing.
All right. Well, hopefully that will be my experience. I don't know why. And I am the person who sings, like I sing in the shower. I belt out. I love driving by myself because I'm like, I can sing with reckless abandon at full volume.
Yep.
And it brings so much joy. Like it feels so good to release that. And then like you hear yourself really off key in a moment and you can laugh at yourself. And there are other times where I'm like, I'm just as good as Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
It's a whole emotional journey. And it must feel amazing to do that like with an audience, to overcome that sort of happier just to have that fun energy.
Yeah.
I admire the karaokeers. Okay, so you are a healer. You trained in Bali, and now you teach other people the same Shiva Murti modality, also in Bali, or here, and you go on journeys to Bali as well. But tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was the first batch of people that learned how to do this that were not Balinese. And Ratu Nabe, the master teacher of this, he's a high priest in Bali. This is his modality. And he said to a group that was on a retreat, like, if you get me a group of 20 people and bring them to Bali, I'll train them to do this. And at the time I was teaching preschool and I was living in LA, pursuing an entertainment career, specifically at that point in children's entertainment. And I was, doing celebrity birthday parties and stuff with my music and with a puppet show that I developed and other stuff. And I was happy. And then this opportunity came and it was a soul yes. I had just lost my brother-in-law to stage 4 cancer and for colon cancer. And it was devastating for all of us. And it just seemed like the most unfair thing in the world because he was such a great guy and such a good dad and such a good husband and such a good brother to me. And I felt like I said to the universe, like, I've got to do something to like make the world better. At the funeral, the rabbi said he was of service to so many people in so many ways. Everyone in this room, and it was like an overflow room, everyone in this room has to like do one of his services so that the universe is in balance, because the universe is out of balance without him here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do some of the things he did. Like he used to do stuff like that I can't do. Like he would stop and fix people's flat tires and stuff like that. I don't know how to do that. But he was also the guy that like when he's walking by a family and the dad is taking the picture, he says, here, I'll take the picture, you get in, and stop every 2 feet to do that for people. So I do that now. But I got inspired to be a healer because I was like, if there was a way to have someone like him not suffer the way he did, I have to do it. I have to. And what also happened is that Ratu Nabe did a remote healing on me at that time. Before I met him, he did it using a picture of me, and he cured my celiac disease and my lactose intolerance. And it was a kind of thing where someone's like, oh, you'll be able to eat gluten now. I'm like, I just want to be able to go to a restaurant and not have the cross-contamination put me out for a couple days, but I didn't honestly, truly believe that anything was going to change or that it was going to work. I just noticed that I was going to restaurants and not getting sick. And eventually I was brave enough to take a bite of bread to see if it really worked. And it did. So I knew that what he was doing wasn't complete bullshit, but I didn't believe or know if I could actually do it because no one it kind of seems impossible,
Yeah.
But I did sign up and decide to go to Bali to work with him. And I pre-trained ahead of time to know some of the things I teach in my course that I teach is like the chant and the Kundalini awakening stuff and the daily practice and that stuff. I trained because I knew he was going to test me and I wanted to be prepared kind of thing. And I was starting to heal people. And I went to Bali and I had another one of those moments in time. What we talked about destruction, where the job that I was at the preschool said I could go, and then they changed their mind and said I couldn't go. And I quit the job and I went, and I knew it was a big thing. Now, my parents, on the other hand, were not on board. Like I've mentioned, my mom was a Jew from New York, and the idea that I'm spending all this money, that I'm quitting a job without a backup job, and that I'm going to Bali, which is something she's heard of Bali maybe, but never seen a picture, to work under a high priest and learn how to essentially blow on people and use energy to heal them was the most ridiculous thing. And they were terrified for me because they thought I had really lost it and that I was taking all my savings with me. That I was they were like, should we get a conservatorship? What should we do with him? He's like, this is crazy. And I knew in my heart and in my soul it wasn't. And I went and I got initiated and I became officially a healer under him through his lineage. And after a few years, I became the teacher of it. And I teach on Zoom, and people after 6 weeks are healing other people. And then some of those students opt to go on the once a year training with him in Bali and go get to do the same things. It's not necessary to be, if you're a Shiva Murti healer, to have to go to Bali or to take other levels or do anything else. I was doing healings on huge things with just my level 1 training. Now, all these years later, been, I think, 6 or 7 years, like, I'm a Jiro, which I put in my little title on here, which is kind of, it's hard to explain because I never got a full explanation, but like his daughter is a Jiro, his son is a Jiro, the other daughter is not a Jiro. My favorite healer in Bali is a Jiro. It's kind of like an anointed healer. It's like, not just like you're a healer. It's like you're a special healer that, like, I believe it's like that a high priest has anointed you, or you've been understood or recognized by a high priest as a Jiro. So with that, I could do ceremonies in Bali. They let me in temples where other tourists can't go, and they let me do ceremonies in there with different tools. And it's been a wild ride, all because I said yes. And then meanwhile, it circled back to, now I have a great company, 2 companies, the healing company and the training company. And it's like, it's allowed me the time and the energy to pursue writing my children's TV show that my pilot's like almost finished. It's like in its final draft, and I just am waiting for notes on it, and then a pitch deck, and then I'm off. So I wasn't able to do any of that when I was teaching. I was too tired all the time. So it kind of like, and I still live in LA, and I still have that ability to pursue what I want, but also have what I need, which is this healing modality.
I love that. That's such a beautiful sort of transition to get to where you are today, where you're sort of full circle, but also with like such a different skill set and tool set and all these amazing life experiences along the way. That's so
and with
cool.
that came also the manifestation stuff, which just kind of was another yes thing, where people were like, oh, wow, how'd you do that? And it like, because I've lived for 51 years in this body, and I know I look great, right?
You really do.
No. But, it's like, I have had experiences over time where people are like, how did you pull that off? Like, how did you get on that TV show? How did you do that thing? How did you manifest? I'll give you an example. I am a fan of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I'm in front of my altar. As you can see, there's doors on it, and I close them at night. And my joke with the energy is always like, I'm going to close this because it's time to watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You don't need to see this. So I'm a fan, and I went to one of their houses, not to be like a stalker, but I was outside on a hike with a friend, and I was like, oh, I'm going to take a picture of the house and send it to my sister, who's a fan. And my car was parked next to one of the women's cars, and I took the picture. And a year later, I was asked to be on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills doing Shiva Murti and doing healings and doing a house clearing for this particular housewife. And when I got there, where I parked was exactly in the same spot I was parked in the picture. And her car was in the same spot. And it was literally like a year later, I went from taking it as a fan to a year later going in and filming for the show. Not just like, oh, I got to meet her or whatever. And then I'm like filming for the show, so it was like, my friends say like, how did you do that? I'm like, I manifested it. And people then were like, well, how? Like, show me. And I just would always say, it's going to take me too long to explain. Yeah. One day I'll just put out a Zoom link and everyone and I'll just tell it. And that's kind of what happened, is that I said to people, if it was a student of mine or a friend, I was like, it's $10. And everyone else was like $20. And I was just, when I started the first one, and I was just like, okay, here's what I do. Here's my 6 steps. I don't follow other people's books or recipes or anything. What did I discover on my own so far in this life? And I developed that. And then it became, people were loving it and having results, and they were signing up for weekly classes on it. And And then you hosted me to come and do it live in front of people so that we could really interact and be present. And it's just
And we're
become a
doing that
thing.
again on September 27th, I believe. It's on our website. But yes, we did it in person. And I am someone who I feel like my manifestation game is strong. But also, I, as a lifelong student, never want to stop learning. I always feel like skills can be tweaked, or you learn something new, or you get a refresher. And I got so much out of that class. And I'm looking forward to doing it again, because I think the more I hear the same information, the more it becomes ingrained into like my daily practices. And then it'll just feel like this natural thing that I'm doing instead of like a forced something. But I did start. So we have this like a glass cabinet in our bedroom. And I was like, I don't know where to have an altar. And I don't want it to feel like too altar-y, but I have to set it up like one of the steps. So I've been sneaking in little things along the way. And what I realized is that everything that's on my sort of like manifestation list right now, there was already something in that cabinet that kind of represents what has been on my heart.
Mhm.
And I was like, was I secretly manifest? Like, I didn't even know that I was doing it, but I was subconsciously doing it. You know, this was when Pip was really sick, and like I already had a picture of Pip and Barkley in there. And I was like, oh, that's one of the things I want to manifest is her health. Or I've always had this goal of writing a book, and like the people who I really admire their writing the most, or like their sort of career as an author, those books were already in there, even though they don't make sense together. And so now I've just snuck in more. I like hide money in there. I stuck some crystals, a green candle. I gave Pip some little taffies this morning. It's like a little sweet
Nice.
treat.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so all of that to say, like, even if you feel like you know how to manifest, I learned so much from this course, and I look forward to like learning and re-ingraining when we do it again together in September.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, because like number one, I believe any good teacher is also a student. So it's like I'm a student as well, because I constantly want to be learning more. And then what a good teacher does is pass it down to the next person. That's the whole point of teaching, is to say, oh, I learned this thing. Now let me teach you how to do it, kind of thing. But I actually, not to brag, but like I actually had someone who wrote a manifestation book take the class. And he said the same thing, that he got things out of it that he had never gotten before. And this woman I know who owns like an imprint was like, I want that as a book. Can you write that as a book? And I'm like, I can. It's not what I pictured doing, but it's another yes moment of like, I didn't plan on this becoming a thing, but it's becoming a thing. So do it. You know, I think I even used this example in the class, but like RuPaul, who is like hands down the most successful drag queen of all time and a super successful business person, drag wasn't the plan. You know, it was like he was dressing up like a David Bowie kind of like gender neutral or whatever you want to call it, and was going to clubs, and they were like, oh, we need a drag queen. Can we hire you to, and he needed money. And he's like, sure. And it was just like, he says, he just would say yes. And the doors were opening. And he was like, I don't want to be a drag queen. I want to be a singer, but like, I'll do this to make money while I'm making music. And he ended up having a hit single as a drag queen, and many, many other songs come out, and built an entire empire on this thing that wasn't planned. Just like I'm building on Shiva Murti, it's like me and two other people, we're in charge of this whole thing. We've been put in charge by Ratu Nabe to take this out of Bali and spread it around the world. And that's not something I went to school for. It's not something that there's instructions of like, oh, here's how you bring a healing modality that no one's heard of before and make it friendly enough that people can hear about it and see it and feel it. But I just keep saying yes, and the doors just keep opening.
I feel like that's the theme of this whole conversation. If you just say yes and wait and see what's going to happen next. And also, so we have done a group healing as well at our store in Woodland Hills. And I met you for the first time through my friend Liz. She had done a group healing with you and was like, you're going to love this guy. And I was like, obviously, he's a healer of a modality I've never heard of. Obviously, I already love him. I am one of those people that's like, is there another version that's not traditional Western medicine that like I might need in my life? I'll absolutely do it. Because I think the body is so fascinating, and the whole topic of like energetics and healing, it's just mind-blowingly awesome to me. So I get so excited when there's something I haven't tried. So she was like, do you want to go? And I was like, obviously I do. And then I heard your voice for the first time, and it sounds so much to my ears like my brother-in-law, who I adore. And he also he teaches in Bali as well on different subjects, but he's like a meditation and mantra coach. And it was like, it just gave me all the warm fuzzies. And then we had a group healing in my store, and it connected with people. I love being in the audience, I think, because you get to see what someone else is going through. It's a very intimate thing, but it never feels awkward or intimidating. And so you never really feel like you're being watched when you're being worked on. But as a person not currently being worked on, you can see what's happening. And you'll see people like sort of like clutch their chests, or like their foot will twitch. Like you're seeing these visible movements, and you're not even really like physically touching the person at the time necessarily. And it's just so interesting to see how they respond. And then my favorite always is finding sort of the emotional blockages and seeing people visibly react to that. Like if they're going through grief and they're feeling it in their body, and you sense that. I think that's so beautiful and very, very helpful for people. And then on a physical piece, like I had you work on, I had been having hip pain so severe it would wake me up in the middle of the night, like just so extremely tight on the right hand side. And it was stretching. I saw the chiropractor. I'd been doing acupuncture for weeks, everything I could think of to get it to go away. And I wasn't even intending on like being a person to be healed. I was just opening the space for you to work with other people. And then it was like, yeah, why not? Put my money where my mouth is. And I've never had that feeling again since then. You worked on it for like 5 minutes, maybe.
That's amazing.
I don't know how it works. I don't need to learn how to heal other people, but I am a believer. I can tell you within my own body. I mean, absolutely worth it. And it's so fun to see other people go through the same journey with you.
Well, thank you for that testimonial.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know you can take that as a little snippet.
I'm taking that clip and I'm putting it on my social media or wherever. But, you point out a couple things so one of the reasons I love doing group healings is because a group healing is when I pull one person at a time up on the table, and I can interact with the people watching, but because I'm in a zone that I'm the energy isn't coming from me. So I focus on pulling it through me, and I'm able to interact and feel like that community feeling like you talked about. But what I love about it is all the people that get to witness all the different kinds of healings that can happen. And you're right. It's intimate, yet doesn't feel violating to get a healing in front of other people. You're not even really paying attention to the people watching.
Yeah.
But when you're watching, it's kind of like, wow, because as you know, like when I'm working on someone, like all sorts of things, anything can happen. So, and including like they can have trouble walking and then walk across the room, or it could be something big. It could be a miracle, or it could be subtle, but anything can happen. I can get any kind of message during, and I'd say, oh, do you know someone named Sarah? And they'll be like, that's my grandmother, like she just died. And I'm like, oh, she's here. Like that could happen, even though that's not like a Shiva Murti thing. It's just I'm channeling energy and information through me. And sometimes that stuff comes up. So that's interesting. I just think it's interesting as an observer too, not just the person receiving the healing. But like I get asked a lot, like, what's the difference between this and Reiki? And I'm like, well, there's a very big difference. However, they're both energy modalities, so they get compared a lot. So in my experience with receiving Reiki, because I'm not a Reiki master or anything, it's like I'm laying down for about an hour and people are not touching, but their hands are hovering and they're bringing in different energies for healing. I personally haven't felt different after those sessions, except maybe a little relaxed. But Shiva Murti is much faster and it's much more intense, and it covers emotional and physical and spiritual healings. So it could be, like I mentioned before, cancer, it could be Lyme disease, it could be a bad knee, it could be back pain, it could be brain fog, it could be so many things. Typically, when I do a full body healing on someone, which is not usually in the group setting, it's like I go through test points, I press different parts of their body, I poke around, and wherever there's a block, I find it and then I clear it. And those blocks sometimes are associated with other areas of the body. That's one way that I do this work. The other is I just go right, what I call a spot healing, which is just going right to like, it's your shoulder, let's go to the shoulder and working on the shoulder. And for people interested, if you're on Instagram, Neil Aaron Healing, or on my website, you'll see videos of me at the group healings. That's usually when I record it. And it's just like, it's just a couple minutes of time. And the person goes from, it's from a 1 to a 10, it's an 8, and now it's gone, or whatever it is. Those miracles are awesome. And of course, I'm going to post those. But there are times where someone's like, I think I feel a little different, or maybe it's 10%. And I'm learning not to get disappointed by that because I'm not in control. It's like, I could do everything possible to try to give them the biggest healing, but I can't control how much healing goes through because there's other blockages out there, and there's soul contracts. There's so many things that could be why this person didn't get that huge miracle that the person next to them got. But there are more miracles than non-miracles. So I
think sometimes it comes a little bit later too, right? Like it's not for everyone in that moment where you're like,
yes,
my arm was broken and now it's not. I know my husband is a non-believer. As much as I feel like I double down on my belief in everything to make up for how much he doesn't believe in everything I believe in. And you were doing a private healing at our friend's house very close by, and he had the opportunity to meet you, my husband, and you ended up working on him for something. I don't know. He's always complaining, like my shoulder, my knee, it's like all the
I think it was the knee. Yeah.
And I'm always the annoying one who's like, do something about it. Like, go see my acupuncturist, like put ice on it. I don't know. And he's like, no, I need to have a knee replacement. I'm like, that's not the first step. But I was like, just talk to Neil. Like, you're already over there. You're going to see him. Like, what if you're already in your mind, like, I'm getting a new knee? Why not just have him do something? And so he comes home. I'm like, what did you think? He's like, he's super nice, but that didn't do anything. And I was like, okay, well, like, why don't you wait and go for a run again and see? He's like, the next day doesn't say anything about it, which means he's not complaining about it, right? But then the minute I ask, I'm like, so how was your day? He's like, no difference. I was like, oh, really? Because it wasn't the first thing you said when you came in. And now, like 2 months later, he's running every single day, which he was not able to do before, and 0 complaints about his body. So I've stopped asking him because I feel like just to spite me, he'll say that like there's no difference. But he wasn't able to run every day before. And now he's doing it with no complaint. And he's added in like a couple of high intensity days every week too, which he also was not able to do before. So I think even when they say that it didn't really do anything, sometimes it really did.
That's a really good example of what does happen is that people, they're like ego or whatever, rather be right that this couldn't be real than accepting that it was. And also, like, it's another good example of sometimes it's 24 hours, 48 hours. Yeah. A lot of times when I'm working on someone and nothing feels like it's changing, I'm like, well, text me tomorrow and let me know. Also, it's another example of some people are attached to their pain. It's kind of part of their identity. It's part of what they're comfortable in. It's like they're used to it. So it's normal to them to have pain. And it's hard to let go of that for some people. It's hard to, and they're not consciously, what I don't like to do is blame the person. Like if they say like, oh, is it because I'm not open enough? I'm not going to be like, yep, it's your fault. But I've also had someone at a group healing one time in Tampa, because I used to travel around the whole country doing this in all different cities. And I literally would say to my students who are around the world, I would say, if you could get 20 people in a room, I'll be there. Like, I'll pay for myself. I'll deal with everything. I'll deal with the flight. I'll deal with everything. And I will do the healings for free. Like, that's what I tell my students. Like, if you get 20 people in a room, because you're my student, I want to help your community, I will show up and I will do healings. And so I've done them all over the country. And I once had a guy who was like this. And he said, he stood up there and he said, my girlfriend dragged me to this. This is total bullshit, but my back hurts so bad that she's making me do this. And I was like, if there's ever been someone closed off, it was him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do the healing and the back pain's gone and he starts crying and he starts saying like, I need a little Neil at my house all the time. Like, he's like, I need you. Like, don't go back to LA. And I'm just like, no, you know, you're okay. But you could always have a remote healing with me because those work the same kind of thing. But so I don't think that people necessarily can block it in certain ways. But I think that, like, I don't know. I don't have all the answers of why sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. It just works differently on different people.
Yeah. But I mean, I agree with that from my profession perspective. Like, I'll do like secret feng shui, whether or not our clients ask us to. It's like a part of who I am. So if I'm setting up someone's space, I'm going to do it in a way that energetically feels the best. And so I'm not even sure that I'm conscious of it anymore. And I think it's one of those things that, like, I don't need them to be open to it. I don't need them to believe that feng shui has an impact on what's going to happen in other aspects of your life. They don't even need to know that it's happening for the impact to be there. And I love getting those texts from clients where, like, I may not have even told them what I did, but they'll let me know that something has happened. My favorite example is we had a client years ago who, like, in the love area of their home, it was so overcrowded. Like, it became the dumping ground of their entire space. And you couldn't find anything in there. It was like old batteries, all the recycling that needs to go out, a bicycle, like just everything piled up, no attention or love given to this space. And so we cleared everything out. We cleaned the whole space. We set it up and, like, without thinking about it, I was like, this is where, like, the pinks and the reds are going to go. And we're going to put the love crystals here and something that reflects like a couple and add a lamp so that there's some more space. And then the next time we saw her, she was like so excited to tell us about this person who she had met and had started dating. And I was like, you're welcome for your love corner.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. I learned on year 3 in Shiva Murti how to do house clearings and how to get negativity out of people's spaces and how to bring in positivity into spaces. And I've had real estate agents have me do it so they can sell a house. Yeah. And I've had real estate agents give it to the person that bought the house and been like, oh, this is going to be your gift from me, is hire Neil to come in, because no one can really put their finger on it. It just feels different. It just feels different, and there's just a better flow and there's more positivity. And so people are like, hocus pocus or not, like, this is,
may as well do it.
I feel different in this space than I did when I came in last time. So I think there's so much to be said about that.
I love it. I love all of the forms of energy work. Well, we already talked about the Manifesting 101 workshop that's coming up end of September. That's such a good way for people to connect with you in person. We should also just do another group healing at the store because that was so cool. But people can do in-person healings with you, one-on-one. They can attend a group healing. They can do the manifesting with you. Same. So you do basically everything you do in person, you also do virtually. So people can be anywhere and work with you.
Right. And I have people come to me for healings. I go to them for healings. Like, usually my celebrity clientele, I don't have them come to my space. I go to their space. And that's what they want anyway. But I'm like, yeah, I have a cute house and all. But so, I have people, I go to people's homes. I also do virtual, which means I do it over Zoom or FaceTime. I also can do remote through photographs. So sometimes people send me their loved ones in the hospital and they send me pictures and I just work on the picture kind of thing. And then, yes, and then I do workshops at your store, which from when Liz told me about your store, I was just like, oh my God, I so support that. Like, it's so up my alley. It's so necessary what you do. And your space is like, obviously now I know you do feng shui and other stuff, but your space is just so homey and inviting and beautiful and warm that I love being in that space. So that's why I love doing my workshops there.
Thank you. Yeah, that has been the most exciting part of opening a storefront to me, is that community aspect of being able to showcase what other cool people are doing. It's like, I never actually host my own workshops, but I'm so fortunate to be able to attend everybody else's, from like art workshops to healing to manifesting. We had a professional photographer teach people how to take better iPhone photos. Just so many cool things. But the people wander in, and when they learn that there's workshops, they get so excited. Like, can I teach something here? I'm like, yeah. What do you want to do? As long as it's not like against all of my values, I'm in.
Right, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be guest number 1 of this season.
I appreciate it.
I'm excited to see you in person and to dive deeper on manifesting stuff. We'll put everything in the show notes, but what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about healing or manifesting?
Probably my website is I have 2 websites. I have one for the school and one but you could usually get all the healing stuff on neilaaronhealing.com. And the other one is Learn Shiva Murti. Or if you just put in shivamurti.com, that'll direct to my website anyway.
Perfect. Oh, so exciting. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.